Howdy folks, my name is Carter and welcome to another episode of Operation Subi.
Oh shit! Nicely done!
That's how you do it, dude. In this episode, it's a really simple fix. All we are fixing is this handbrake down here. Now as you can see, this handbrake is definitely not the most optimal. It's just very loose up until the very end, and at the very end is only when it really engages. And it does stick. It will hold this car on a hill, but I do want to adjust it, and it might be the case. I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, that it's not a stretched cable, although this car does have about 250,000 miles on it, so it could be that. If that's the case, at some point I will have to replace the cables, but I'm hoping I can just pop this off and adjust the parking brake. So, that's the plan for this video. We'll dive right into it. All we need is a Phillips head screwdriver and 2 wrenches. That should be it. It's a pretty simple thing, so let's get right into it. The first step that we'll need to do, basically what we want to do is remove this whole panel and this whole panel. We need to access right down in here below the e-brake. So what we need to do is we need to start by removing this. Now this just screws off. Now this actually stays on here, so this whole thing is just one floppy mess now. But that'll just sort of stay out of the way. And then what we can do is we should be able to just sort of push this plastic piece forward and pry it up. I found it easier to do with a screwdriver. Basically, you just want to sort of pull up on here, on the leather, and then with a screwdriver, just gently pry under there, and that just pops off. As you can see, there's a little clip there, and that clip is right there. So this will just be moved to the side for the moment. If you want to, you can disconnect this electrical connection right here. I'm just going to sort of set this right here and not mess with it. Next step, under here, we want to lift up. There we go. So we have 2 screws here, one and one, and then the other 2 screws we have are up here, here, and over on the other side. So we need to remove those 4 screws, and then this whole center piece of plastic should pull up. And then do the same thing up here. All 4 are out. So at this point, all 4 screws are out, and with any luck, this whole thing should just be able to pull off pretty easily. That just pops right up. And I think the only thing, the other thing that I'm gonna do is actually remove this connection. Just pulls it like that. All right, so that's out of the way. That's easier. So now we can pull this whole ordeal up. And under here, there are 2 connections. It's very simple. You just pop that out. I guess I can bring this down here. All you need to do is, I've already done one of these, but there's just these 2 connections here. This white one, and then back here there is a blue one, and it just has these little tabs. Pulls out just like that for the seat heaters. As we pull up, this will just sort of slide over. We can set this out of the way. And what we want to look at is, hopefully you can see that in here, there are just these 2 little bolts right there. And all we need to do is adjust those. So we're basically going to get 2 wrenches, put them one on each other. These are locking each other down. And at this point, you want to put the car in gear so it holds itself, and so you can take the handbrake off and then adjust this. Here we are. I have put the car in gear and brought the handbrake all the way down. And here's what it looks like. So all we have to do now, which shouldn't be too hard, is pop a wrench here on the bottom Get that in place. Pop a wrench on the top, which should be a 10 millimeter, and turn it. And right there, as you can see, it loosens up. And now I can just loosen it the rest of the way by hand. What our goal here is to tighten this bottom one down. And I don't know exactly how much to tighten it. I'm just going to start tightening it and sort of go by feel. And basically all that's doing is it's pulling the cable up just a little bit at a time. So I think the best method to do this is just sort of as you go, every little bit, grab your handbrake, pull it up, and see how the feel is. My guess is I'm going to have to do this, spend a couple minutes here tweaking it and getting it right. But I'll come back once this is done. So I have gotten this to a point where I'm happy with how it feels. I can pull up the handbrake and it locks nicely. In a good position. It's not going too far up like it was before. So at this point, all we need to do is lift this up and tighten down our locking nut. So that'll just slide down onto the bottom, and we'll start turning that. My guess is it'll start turning the bottom one, but we will find out. And that's all locked up. So that's all we need to do at this point. I don't know if you can see down there, but it's pretty filthy down there. So you really don't need to do anything else at this step besides put it back together. But just for the sake of me being me, I am going to vacuum that out, and then at that point, then I'll put it back together. Always use protection, kids. Gotta make sure you get your seat warmers back in. 1 and 2. There we go. So this will just slide back in and fall down into place real nice. And these screws can screw back in. And again, you really don't need to do this, but there's some gunk here, so while this is apart, I'm just gonna clean that up real quick. And that looks a bit better. So, at this point, we can grab this little assembly down here, and we can, let's see, pop this little holder back in place, and connect this again. This should just slide over, and pop back into place there, and in the back, that just latches down. Simple as cake. So, last step is just screw this back down, center it up, and that is ready to rock and roll again. So, my friends, that is it. As you can see, it's a pretty, door closing on me. As you can see, it's a pretty simple project, but if you check it out, it used to go all the way back, and now it's holding the car here, and if I pull it a little bit further, it's not gonna let it roll anywhere on a hill or whatever you're on. So that is what we wanted. That's as good as new, and job well done. So hope that helped you. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe if you haven't already. Got a lot more stuff coming out on this Subi, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.